Hi, welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. As you know, this particular conversation, this show serves both the folks in the Whitman and Hanson area. And we are currently enduring something that is unprecedented. And that is the word. That is the key word to describe what we are going through in regards to COVID-19, the coronavirus, which is basically forced us to change our life as we know it. We do things like, shelter in place. If you don't feel good, stay home, self-quarantine, social distancing. That's what 2020 is going to be known for. And we've been fortunate to have different conversations with the different stakeholders in both communities. Joining us today is a gentleman who we've had on many times. He is here to talk with us. His name is Justin Evans. You know him as a selectman. Justin, welcome back to CrossTalk, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. Nice to be here virtually.
Yeah, being here virtually. Whereas I had to make you feel at home. That's why we have the set in the background per se, and of course you're making me feel better. So I know I see town hall in your backdrop.
Yep.
What has it been? Here we are. We're in the mid-April. What has it been like as an elected official to kind of see what you normally do kind of change direction and change not only day to day, but hour to hour at times?
Yeah, it's this year's been entirely flipped on its head. We are approaching the time of year when normally we'd have certified school budgets would be narrowing down warrant articles and Article 2 ready to present to town meeting. And that's all different this year. We can't meet in person. All meetings are virtual, all kinds of hangups working with that. And, recently the selectmen voted to move the town election to a date to be determined and postpone town meeting to a placeholder date at the beginning of June that we will likely push back even further. So it's an interesting year.
And knowing that this is you're about to eclipse your first year in office, it's been quite an eventful year, hasn't it?
It has. Last year when I was running, I was expecting to get to work on things like the Community Preservation Act, which is technically still on the table, but I wasn't expecting things like a global quarantine, a pandemic. We've had 2 candlelight vigils for Whitman residents. This has been a difficult year.
How has the conversation changed from, traditionally, it's leading up to town. I mean, this was going to be your first town meeting as an elected official on the Board of Selectmen. Again, prior you served as a member of the Finance Committee, so you're somebody who has experience. Does this disappoint you that you're not going into your first year as an elected official, knowing that you've done a lot of work? There's been a lot of foundational work that's been laid by the Budget Override Evaluation Committee, and a lot of homework done to try to put Whitman on the right path financially.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing not to see all that hard work paying off this time of year. It still will pay off. It's all this. The work is not going to waste. We've put a lot of good foundation pieces in place to develop a long-term strategic plan and really set the town in the right direction. It's just this year's town meeting may be different.
What's the word right now? I know that there's an upcoming conversation as to when town meeting will take place. Is that something that is in the hands of your board? Is this I believe that there's an upcoming conversation. We don't want to take this conversation that you and I are having, but there is a conversation to be had as to, do we move it back until June? Do we postpone it indefinitely till we know that, whatever the governor puts in place and says, okay, it looks as though we have flattened the curve, seems we're on the downside of this, and that our positive numbers are down, and the fatalities from COVID-19 are also on the decline. It's safe for us to start slowly returning back to business. Is that what your board is looking to do?
Yeah, we're looking to take the advice from our Board of Health, from the state, from the fire chief, who's in a state of emergency, has a lot of control of how the town operates. Our board is not a bunch of health experts, so we're looking for all the best input that we can get. Town meeting was originally scheduled for, I believe it was May 4th. but that date would it seems unlikely now. So the board did vote to recommend that the town moderator move it back. The method we're using to delay town meeting is through the moderator. He can move it 30 days at a time. Something that we will probably revisit every selectmen's meeting, every time we can invite Mike Seeley and discuss it quite frequently between now and the time we actually hold it.
Yeah, and it seems as though, the one thing is going from actually sitting in a room and having your fellow elected officials on the left and the right of you. Now it's more Brady Bunch style per se, where it's a remote setting. What has it been like to kind of get acclimated to that? I think a younger guy like yourself, it's you kind of embrace the technology and it's something that you appreciate. But there are other folks who maybe not so much. Maybe they like old hat and they like that old being across the table with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer to be in the room working these numbers out, and working with a lot of the people that are making the decisions. A lot of them do as well. The kind of virtual meeting isn't new to me. I've held a number of. I'd used Zoom before all this broke out. Maybe in the minority there, but between FaceTime just to talk to my parents, the whole dynamic of virtual, sort of I guess physical distancing, but maintaining a social connection virtually is the direction we're heading for the near term.
Do you feel as though, at least thanks to technology, while things have kind of slowed the direction of being able to set things up for town meeting and any plans that are being laid out for 2021, at least they're still creeping along? And that might not have been the case if this had taken place 20 or 30 years ago, that maybe we would not have the technology to virtually or remotely still have conversations, unless everybody was, calling in on a phone and it was a teleconference per se.
Yeah, and actually our first selectmen's meeting after we stopped meeting physically was calling in on a phone. It was just a teleconference. Dan Salvucci and Frank Linen were sitting in the room 6 feet apart with a phone bridge in front of a mic, and all the other selectmen were there virtually. So definitely prefer having being able to see each other visually and releasing the audio with a graphic. But 20, 30 years ago that wouldn't have been possible. Even back going further, this is not the first pandemic that we've experienced as a town, although I don't think anyone here would remember what the 1918 flu or the 1916 polio pandemics were like for the area, but it's happened before.
What are your concerns at moving forward where there's such an unknown? And again, knowing that you've become a prominent individual on the Board of Selectmen, I know that you are a key part of the BOEC group meeting and discussing the future of the town moving forward, and hopefully wanting to see. I feel as though that your subcommittee was plodding along at a pace that you were heading in the right direction, and that this would have been a breakout year at town meeting. Any disappointment that it's one of those things that's been kind of put on the shelf for the time or tabled at this moment?
It's a little disappointing. Luckily, I'm in a number of subcommittees right now, and all of them have been able to continue to meet. The BOEC wrapped up its recommendations, presented to the Board of Selectmen, and they may have one more meeting before town meeting, but for the time being, it's the Buildings, Facilities, and Capital Expenditure Committee. They're still continuing to meet to prepare warrant articles, capital warrant articles, moving ahead business as usual. And the recently formed Regional Agreement Amendment Committee had its first meeting recently, and they're continuing to meet virtually. So I actually have a little more worry about the boards that can't meet this way. Any boards or committees that are by law required to have a public forum. If you're the Zoning Board of Appeals or the Planning Board, you have to be open to anyone that may be impacted by your decisions. And so they have not been able to meet this way unless you, we've got to get creative if this continues on longer than the beginning of the summer.
I have to ask you this because I know that your platform, when you were running for office as a selectman, one of your key concerns, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, was your concerns was for local business, small businesses. What are your concerns for them? And is there anything that the town can do once we see the light at the end of the tunnel, or any fear that a lot of the good businesses that the town has, you may see trimmed down and go under because of the pandemic?
That's a huge fear of mine. That was something that I ran and was trying to expand the small businesses we have, in a couple different ways to do that I won't get into now. But all of that is on hold, and it's a matter of trying to support what we still have, whether that is continuing to do takeout for restaurants that are still open. Some restaurants have closed altogether. Any non-essential businesses have been forced to close, first by the town and then shortly thereafter by the governor. If we really need to make sure we're on top of this. I know the federal government and state government are offering programs to help support small businesses, and we need to keep putting that information out there so that we can, retain the vibrant town center that we have that's been growing recently.
It's worth noting, and thank you. That's a great follow-up, because just a couple of days ago, I actually had a great conversation with State Representative Josh Cutler, one of the two representatives that serve the Whitman-Hanson district, along with Representative Sullivan, who we had on, that I actually did a segment with 2 weeks ago. Both of them discussing things that are being done on the state level, as you mentioned, and I believe the CARES Act, which the federal government has put forth in that $2 trillion stimulus package to not only grant everybody a little bit of extra coin in their bank accounts or a check that'll come to their door, but also some initiatives to help local businesses with loans, grant-type loans, that if they follow certain parameters of the loan, well, if they don't have to pay it back, it's almost like a Pell Grant, where it's theirs to keep. But if they don't, well, then it's a smaller amount that they would have to pay back. What can be done on the local level? Not only to help businesses, but is there any thoughts or plans in regards to residents who are struggling? Have you heard any conversations about assisting folks when it comes to their excise tax, stuff like that?
So I'm watching what other towns are doing as we have conversations at the selectmen and town administrator level. I believe Hanson recently decided to push back the payment of any of their local taxes. That's something we're considering as well. Just anything, as the unemployment numbers are terrifying right now. Anything we can do to help our residents out, we're looking at.
Yeah, you're talking what, 20 million? I thought I saw 20 million so far. National
22 million in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, in the past 4 weeks, which is astounding.
Yeah, 160 million workers nationwide, and 22 million were let go.
And you have to ask yourself, with numbers like that, how many have not reported that as well? But I would think that if there's an opportunity to be able to collect or be furloughed, that people are going to be a little bit more open, and they're going to report it. So maybe these numbers are a little bit more truer than we normally see when the federal government releases their figures for unemployment.
Yeah, you hope so. And really, elected officials at all levels need to do everything they can to keep this information out there so that anyone who needs help can get it.
What's your thought as far as moving forward with town meeting? Any early indications as to what we could see? Has there been thoughts bandied about, whether during open meeting with the Board of Selectmen or just in general conversation with your town administrator, Frank Lynham?
Yeah, I don't know if the conversations have been in one-on-one with Frank or at a selectmen's meeting. It's the Zoom meetings are starting to blend together now. But we're trying to see what all the communities around us are doing. There was a town out in Western Mass that did an outdoor town meeting at the beginning of all of this. I think that I don't really want to get together with 200 of my closest neighbors, even if we're distanced outside right now. So I think our best bet is to wait until we believe it's safe to start gathering. And even if we need a larger space than the town hall auditorium, we're waiting for the advice of public health professionals.
So the other thing I would have to throw out at you, and knowing that you're a numbers guy per se, being on the finance committee, now being on the Board of Selectmen, I think the other thing I would be curious, being an elected official, we look at the state level, I mean, that process kind of stalled out as it was hitting the House. We get the governor's House one, but
Yeah.
yet we're now waiting, anticipating that the Ways and the House Ways and Means Committee was going to kind of release theirs, and that's kind of put on hold. Any concern as to how your community will make out, knowing that the process is stalled out on the state level?
Yeah, so because I'm not on the board of health and I'm not the fire chief, this is the area that really falls into my lap. We've been watching to see. I know there's an expected shortfall in the projected cherry sheet numbers this year, because a lot of that aid is determined by lottery ticket sales, lottery money, and that's drying up right now. So we're preparing for a shortfall in the neighborhood of, I think, $300,000 to $500,000 right now, and that could creep up if this situation continues much longer.
So is there anything that maybe during this conversation that we have had that I may have overlooked, that maybe as an elected leader, as somebody who has your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community, even if it's something as a public service announcement about the importance of folks listening to what the daily updates from the governor or from the president or from health officials in regards to kind of, if you are not feeling well, making sure that you shelter in place, or that if you do travel out, that you wear a mask. If this is your opportunity to touch upon something that we haven't, now is the time for you to share it.
Sure. I at least like to touch on a couple of things. Yeah, there's a lot of really good ways to get information right now. That one thing a lot of people are craving. Everyone's posting on social media, all levels. The town has put together a blog. It's whitmancovid19.com. On there, they're pushing updates from whether it's from the state level, the federal level, links to places to get help. Since the state decided to start publishing numbers town by town, we're starting to include our numbers there as well. Whitman's reported number of cases and how many have recovered. So those are on whitmancovid19.com. The town as well as myself are sharing as much as we can on Facebook to get help to the communities. Find my Justin Evans Whitman Selectman Facebook page. I'm sharing a lot of links from Allison Sullivan, Mike Brady, Josh Cutler, who's doing a fantastic job aggregating information. The state's put together a 211 number for anyone who has questions related to COVID-19. You'll actually get a person on the other end. There's a text line, COVID MA, text COVID MA to 888-777. There's a lot of ways right now to continue getting information out there, which really staying on top of the latest developments as situations change. The federal government's recommending we wear face masks outside in public. It's something that as the situation develops, you want to know the latest guidance. I'd also like to throw out there that the Whitman Food Pantry is no longer accepting donations of food, but they are still accepting monetary donations. You can address a check to Whitman Food Pantry at 518 Washington Street, Whitman, Mass, and help out people in the community that could use it.
Excellent. All excellent advice, all excellent information. And I just want to kind of, if I could add in on what the selectman has just mentioned in regards to finding ways to help out. I would think also the Hanson Food Pantry is doing something similar. Again, if you live in either community, this will
Right.
add. Also, Whitman Hanson Community Access has we've done our best here to not only update and add some items onto our website. WHCA.tv is the best way to do that. And also do programs like this with great officials like Justin to talk about what's going on and give you different angles. We try not to be redundant if we can at all help it, and get different people on who can specialize and give you the information as you need as things change by the day, by the hour, whatever that may be. Justin, I want to thank you very much for joining me. And as we have more updates, I definitely would welcome you to rejoin me here in the studio or the virtual studio. And again, thank you for your time.
Of course, anytime, Kevin.
You got it. And thank you very much for watching CrossTalk. And if there are conversations that you'd like for us to have here virtually to help you get through this, looking for information, info@whca.tv is the way to do that. Until next time,